Now on For the News with Jon Snow in New York and Alex Thompson in London, complete with subtitles for deaf or hard of hearing viewers. Select subtitles if you're watching digital or teletext page 888.
It is Gore versus Bush for America, but will either make a difference to the rest of us? Bill Bradley's bid for a progressive, humane America in which battling racial hatred and poverty were high priorities is over. Gore is left the beneficiary and the front runner. Good evening from New York. There have been moments when both Gore and Bush might have fallen, but last night the Democrat and Republican machines delivered for their chosen sons. Tonight, as Al Gore challenges George W. Bush to drop the big money, dirty campaigning and to debate the issues, amid his rejection of the offer, we meet the rich of California's Orange County, who once funded Bush, but who now no longer see him as their messiah. And here in New York, we talk to the best president the Democrats never nominated about who Gore is and what he offers for the rest of us.
Highly committed, single-minded about progressing politically up the ladder to the top, moderate by disposition about almost everything except the eagerness to serve.
And the other headlines tonight: Goliath finally joins the craze. British Telecom slashes its internet charges, but net providers see too little too late and sense a rip-off. Yet another blow for Cumbria's Sellafield plant as Germany bans imports of its MOX nuclear fuel. And 50 million, 90 million, 109 million. Now the Scottish Parliament will cost at least £230 million. How Donald Dewar had the builders in and left a financial mess.
So now it seems there are two. Super Tuesday left Al Gore and George W. Bush virtually certain of their party's nominations for the presidency. The Democrat challenger Bill Bradley is expected to pull out of the race as early as tomorrow. Republican outsider John McCain may take a little longer, but he faces another drubbing in the southern state primaries next week if he keeps his campaign going that long. So in the end, Super Tuesday did prove conclusive for both major parties, with the results favouring the front runners. In the Republican contest, Senator John McCain did manage to win 4 of the 5 New England states he'd hoped for, but elsewhere it was George W. Bush all the way. With victories in the key states of California, New York and Ohio, he's now got 660 of the 1,034 delegates he needs to secure the presidential nomination. In the Democrat race, it was a clean sweep for Al Gore. He beat Bill Bradley in every one of the 15 states being contested yesterday. With Gore having already more than 1,300 of the 2,170 delegates he needs, he's effectively home and dry. So the internal party battles are all but over, and attention is already turning to the long-running run-up to November's election proper. And whilst Bush has undoubtedly been politically wounded by an expensive and dirty fight with John McCain, Gore has emerged from the Democrat primaries looking stronger, with his party more united. Our Washington correspondent David Smith joins us live now from Los Angeles. David, from your perspective over there, how are these two candidates really looking today, the morning after the night before?
You know, after a campaign of so many twists and turns, it really looks quite simple at this very early stage, we have to say. Quite simple in the sense that you can see a stronger Al Gore, a weaker George Bush. You know, I went to see John McCain leave Los Angeles this morning. He was simply too angry to talk to any of us, and clearly his people believe that George Bush used every dirty trick in the book to beat them. At the same time, we've been talking to significant Republicans out here in California who feel that Bush has moved too far to the right to be electable. The result, today Al Gore leads in California by 8 to 10 points. And you know, ever since the age of Ronald Reagan, the thinking has always been that he who has an early lock on California ultimately has the White House.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
The big winner in all this is Vice President Gore, triumphant across the country on the Democratic side, and now believing in himself in a way he's probably never done before. Not least because his opponent, Bill Bradley, never really laid a glove on Gore's weak spots.
Winning isn't everything, it's the only thing.
Bradley leaves the Democratic stage with the Gores in very healthy shape. The many questions about the Vice President, his truth-telling, for example, not out there yet, really.
I feel battle-tested.
The contrast with the Republicans is stark. George Bush was celebrating with a press conference today in Texas, but his inheritance is a decidedly poisoned chalice at this stage, despite his optimism.
That's what a lot of people wanted to see, whether or not I could come through a tough primary intact, and I feel great.
Fact is, John McCain may be on the point of pulling out. Most of his advisors today are telling him to do so.
That our crusade continues tonight, tomorrow, the next day.
But McCain is furious with George Bush and the negative tactics he feels the Bush campaign used to win.
And it's a damn shame that that's what it comes down to in the Republican Party. We can be better than that.
You obviously think that Bush is going down to defeat, don't you?
Yes.
You really do?
Yes.
Remember, that's a Republican talking. Certainly look at the landscape of California today, the state that's a must-win for any president. And you have to see that the signs for Bush and the Republicans are not good.
We feel that over time our party has gravitated too far to the right.
This week in Orange County, the birthplace of the Reagan Revolution, we found multimillionaire Republicans forming a breakaway movement, saying defeat in November is inevitable unless the party changes tack.
What's happened is you have a party that's moved from one that used to be big tent and inclusionary, which is one that is becoming more and more isolated and exclusionary. That's why we formed our group, the New Majority, to really reverse that trend.
Way to go, you guys!
Truth is, California is less than inspired about this presidential race on this decisive day for the nominees.
I'm not sure. Well, Bush or Gore? Don't like either of them by the sounds of it.
No, I'm not crazy about either one of them.
But as we discovered at the LA Marathon this week, all shapes, sizes and disguises here, Al Gore is comfortably ahead in the race in California at the moment.
But I mean, do you like the idea of Bush versus Gore?
No, I like the idea of Gore.
I'm going to vote for Gore.
Why?
Because I think he's the smartest guy, he's got the best wheels, and...
the best wheels?
I mean, he knows what he's doing.
Who are you going to vote for?
I'm not sure yet. Elvis, probably.
Bush, Gore. Who do you vote for then?
Oh, that's a tough question. Probably Bush.
So George Bush really has to work overtime now on the cancer within his own party.
Soon our party will unite and turn to the main task at hand, ending the era of Clinton-Gore.
The initiative does seem to be with Al Gore, who's now challenging George Bush to 2 debates a week, no less. That quite simply is not... But
well, now, given, David, that Mr. Bush rejected these offers from Al Gore to get debating and drop the negative stuff, how is this campaign going to look in the coming weeks?
Oh, John, it's still very early stages, but I think you have to believe at this stage. Sad to report that this is going to be the nastiest campaign we've ever seen so far. You know, the message, one of the big messages for me of this primary season is that the negatives worked. When Bradley threatened Gore, Gore clobbered Bradley with negatives, and it worked. When McCain threatened Bush, Bush hammered away at McCain in recent weeks, and it worked. You know what they're doing right now, John? Over in the Gore camp, they're looking at how to paint George Bush as a right-wing extremist in the pocket of the Christian coalition. And in the Bush camp today, I can tell you that they're looking at how to paint Al Gore as a liar on everything from the environment to how much marijuana he smoked when he was a young man. I think one of them said last night, I think it was Al Gore, you ain't seen nothing yet. I think we're probably going to see a whole lot more.
David Smith in California. Well, we'll be back later with more analysis and reaction, and Democrat elder statesman Mario Cuomo will spill the beans on the real Al Gore. But now, back to Alex in London for the rest of today's news.
Thanks, John. Now, the big boys have joined the fight. British Telecom has become the third company this week to announce that it's going to change the way it charges consumers who use its services to surf the internet. Its new packages mean that users can choose one of 2 flat fees for varying amounts of access. But is it a good deal? And why is an industry leader following the trend and not setting it? Here's our business correspondent, Jonathan Rugman.
BT today launched its cheapest internet access package yet. BT's tried before, last December it had to withdraw another offer after the regulator complained it was unfair to the competition. But now NTL and Alta Vista have unveiled their cheap deals. BT's trying again, turning this into a historic week. Because from now on, internet service providers will have to rely on advertising to make money rather than taking a slice of call charges, which are now falling. These are the rival offers unveiled in the last few days. American search engine Alta Vista fired the first salvo, pay a sign-up charge up to £50 and up to $167 a month, and calls to the internet are free. But the offer's limited to the first 500,000 customers. Then cable firm NTL hit back. Spend at least $9.25 on the phone and you get free net access, but you must be a cable customer. BT's saying that for $29.25, including line rental, you get unlimited net access. It goes down if you surf at off-peak times. So the tariffs vary.
We'd advise people not to get caught up in the hype. Wait and see what happens. It could be that some of these models aren't sustainable in the long term. But look carefully at the terms and conditions of each offer.
The internet may be getting cheaper, which is what governments and consumers want, but why is BT looking late in responding to demand? Well, it has shareholders and profits to think of, so it can't dare to be as competitive as smaller newcomers who don't mind losing money for a bit to build up a customer base. Its second problem is with this man, David Edmonds, the Oftel regulator, who will use his powers to stop BT if it abuses its market position to kill off competition.
They have a difficulty in leading change in terms of bringing down prices for consumers, because they could be accused of anti-competitive behavior by the telecoms industry regulator Oftel. However, they have, to some extent, brought this situation onto themselves by failing to be sufficiently proactive in trying to get a more competitive offering to consumers.
The victims from this week's price war will be the internet service providers. Already fighting over advertising revenue to survive, they're now worried that BT will pass phone charge costs from customers to the ISPs themselves.
Well, we're joined now by BT's Managing Director of Products, Ray Smith. Mr. Smith, that's a pretty tough point, isn't it? I mean, you should be leading in this, and as it stands, it's basically the third offer to customers, and many will say it's the worst.
I think we are leading this. If you look at the comparable prices...
But you came third.
I don't think so, if I can just tell you what the actual numbers are, because I think they were actually incorrect. The actual numbers are, if you look for off-peak and evening and weekends to access the internet on a like-for-like basis on the way that you were actually describing, then that costs £5.99, and that's for evening and weekends, and you can use as much as you want in that time period for £5.99. And that is a very, very competitive price. It's very competitive versus the USA, which is a very competitive market.
Well, let's go into that, because it's being billed as free or almost free access to the net, and that's fine so far as the local call goes to the local exchange. Thenceforth, the call is on passed by the internet service provider. Somebody's got to pay for that, and it's going to be them, isn't it?
Well, what you have to do is, following the American model, you need to split out getting to the internet and then charges from the ISP. What we're saying is for $5.99 for evening and weekends, we will get you to the internet.
Yes, great for you, but where's that other cost going? You see, there's two halves to the phone calls,
well, no, there isn't, because what happens is the ISPs can come and collect that particular call, and then there's a range of different models. If I look at America, then they've got models whereby the ISP will actually give you money for actually connecting to them, to where they actually charge subscription charges, which AOL does, for instance. So there's a huge variety. But the one really important thing is people will now know exactly how much they're going to pay. And that was seen in the UK as being a problem for consumers, that they wanted to get on the net, but they didn't know how much it's going to be. And now at $5.99, that's a fantastic deal.
Right, well, the poor consumer watching this is probably, as the Consumer Association says, pretty confused. But let's look at it. Are we now going from a stage where basically we're leaving behind the net being paid for by the phone calls to being paid for by advertising? Is that really where all this is going?
I think we're splitting along the American model, which is there is a charge to get to the internet, and that, as I say, is $5.99 for off-peak and weekends. There is then a charge that independent service providers might choose to make, or a credit that it might choose to be, and they can use that. They can do that through the BT bill. And that is entirely for the ISPs.
But the ISPs are furious about this. I mean, they weren't very polite to us this afternoon. They said, well, British Telecom is using a lot of smoke and mirrors, and that was at their most polite.
Yeah, I think some ISPs would say that and others wouldn't. I mean, there's a huge variety of commercial models. I mean, all the way to in the States where people are actually giving you PCs to join the internet. So the way that you can actually do that, the thing to recognise today is our offer allows you to go to more than one ISP. You can go to as many ISPs as you want. They will have all different commercial models, and a lot of other offers actually tie you into one single ISP, and then you might have to get streams of advertising. This allows you to choose which one you want to hit.
Ray Smith, thanks very much. Picture the confused consumer. Now, Germany has suspended imports of MOX nuclear fuel from Sellafield in Cumbria because of doubts over the plant's safety standards. That move follows the revelation that managers at Sellafields had falsified data for exports to Japan. Here's our science reporter, Julian Rush.
Nuclear power is a central issue in Germany. This decision is from a Green Party environment minister in a coalition government that's committed to ending nuclear power. So while the ban will nominally stay until Germany is satisfied Sellafield is safe, the government is sympathetic to those who want to make it permanent.
The public pressure will grow from the affair in Sellafield to pull out and to end plutonium economy. Sellafield is part of the plutonium economy in Europe and in the world, and as far as Germany is concerned, we are resolved to pull out of the plutonium economy as soon as possible.
BNFL says the decision will have no immediate effect. No deliveries were planned for Germany, and the MOX plant at the centre of the row over falsification of safety data is closed on the orders of nuclear inspectors, whose damning reports triggered the German decision. The company adds BNFL is confident that the corrective measures requested for the MOX demonstration facility at Sellafield can be implemented before any future deliveries would be due. This is what's really at stake: BNFL's £300 million gamble on a new MOX plant. The government has yet to decide to allow it to open. To get permission, BNFL must show they have enough contracts to make it worthwhile. With Japan, Germany is the biggest potential customer. MOX is made from reprocessed fuel, but Germany is negotiating the end of nuclear reprocessing with its nuclear industry.
The German contracts for the new Sellafield MOX plant are actually about 2/3 of the contracts that BNFL has for that plant. So they are very significant. BNFL are simply playing down this decision because they don't want to admit how extensive the threat is to their business.
If I were the manager of a company in Germany, I would seize the situation, and I would use the situation to abandon the contracts now. A better opportunity will maybe not follow in the future.
BNFL, though, remains confident that all the reprocessed nuclear material at Sellafield will eventually be returned as MOX fuel. If that confidence turns out to be misplaced, then plans to privatise the company may well be put into jeopardy.
Julian Rush. Now, Kirsty has more of today's news.
Thanks, Alex. Well, a doctor has told the High Court in London of the injuries he witnessed at a detention centre during the Bosnian War. Idris Mirdzanic said he photographed inmates after they were beaten by Serb guards with the hope that the pictures would be shown to the outside world. He was speaking as a witness in a libel trial brought by ITN against the magazine Living Marxism.
Dr. Idris Mirdzanic, a Bosnian Muslim, said he was one of several medical staff taken against their will to the Serb-run Trinopolje camp in 1992. He was filmed there by ITN. He told the court women were raped and he heard screams from a laboratory where inmates were interrogated. They were beaten with table legs and brought to the medics to have wounds dressed. He took these pictures and hid the film before handing it to ITN. If it had been discovered, I would probably have been killed, he said. ITN and reporters Penny Marshall and Ian Williams, who works for Channel 4 News, say LM Magazine, formerly Living Marxism, libelled them by claiming that they misrepresented images filmed at the camp. Dr. Mirdzanic said that after the ITN team went away, things changed rapidly. The wire came down and convoys of inmates left. But he said 5 men were beaten with rifles in a road and killed. LM denies libel. The hearing continues tomorrow.
1,800 jobs are at risk at the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast. The workers were today served with a 90-day protective notice of redundancy. It's thought the yard could close if a buyer isn't found before the deadline. Israel and the PLO will resume peace talks later this month in Washington, ending weeks of deadlock in the Middle East peace process. The latest breakthrough was announced after a meeting between the Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and the Palestinian President Yasser Arafat in Ramallah on the West Bank. They resolved some important differences in an effort to meet the September deadline for a final peace treaty. In Tokyo, 4 people were killed and more than 30 injured when a packed underground train derailed and crashed into an oncoming train. It happened during the rush hour, so hundreds of people were caught up in the chaos. It's not known yet what caused the crash, although initial reports suggest there might have been an explosion. Pierre-Yves Gerbeau, the Frenchman brought in to save the Dome, has announced new measures to entice more people into the attraction. There'll be later opening times and timed tickets to cut down on the queues for the body zone. From the next month, the Dome will be open until 11 o'clock at night on Fridays, Saturdays and bank holidays. After a rocky start to the year, attendance figures for February were up 55% on January. The man in charge says he's not the only one who deserves the credit for this.
I think it's not a one-man show, obviously. Euro Disney was not a one-man show either. So I think it's all a team effort. We're doing changes and exciting changes on a daily basis about the visitor experience, about the visitor flow, about reducing the body queue line.
Now, when we come back after the break, we'll have more of the day's news. And what would you rather spend public money on? Hospitals, schools, or a new Parliament building? As Scotland rows over the £200 million plus its spending on Holyrood, its new Parliament, we report on why the escalating bills spell trouble for the country's First Minister.